In this video, I will show you how to write the standard form equation of a hyperbola when you're given general form. Basically, we are going to complete the square. Your first step has to be grouping together your terms that have like variables. So I need to group together my x terms, and I need to group together my y terms. This constant should be put to the other side of the equation. So when I rewrite this, I'm going to have 4x squared minus 24x. All right, now I've got my x terms together. And then I will have minus y squared minus 10y, now my y terms are together, is equal to positive 5. I added 5 to both sides. So before I can complete the square, I need to deal with any coefficients that I have in front of these squared terms. All right, and I will treat this like a -1. These have to come outside of parentheses. So I'm going to have a 4 outside parentheses, and that's going to leave me with x squared minus 6x. Okay, leave a space to complete the square. Imagine doing the distributive property back. I'd have 4x squared, and then 4 times negative 6x is negative 24x. Just check yourself as you go. Now I need to pull this -1 outside of parentheses as well. If I do that, then I'll have y squared plus 10y, leave an extra space to complete the square, is equal to 5. Again, imagine distributing this -1. I would get -1y squared. -1 times 10y makes -10y. So now we complete the square. We do half the middle squared. Half of this is -3. -3 squared is positive 9. Now we need to balance out the change on the right hand side, but remember, this is not a 9, this is really 4 times 9. So I need to add 36 to the other side to balance that out. Next I'm going to do half the middle squared again. Half of this is 5. 5 squared is 25. So I'm going to have to add 25 right here. Now, again, this is not really 25. This is really -1 times 25. So I'm going to have to put a minus 25 on the right-hand side in order to balance out this change. My next step basically amounts to adding these three numbers together. But first, it's time to factor. So I'm going to have 4 out front. This will factor as x minus 3 times x minus 3. The whole point of completing the square is to guarantee that you get the same thing twice. If the middle term is negative, they will both be negative. Now I have -1 times, and this will factor as y plus 5 times y plus 5. If the middle term is positive, they will both be positive. And these three numbers add up to positive 16. Okay, now that I have x minus 3 times x minus 3, I can write 4 times x minus 3 squared. Okay, and then I've got -1 times, but instead of writing y plus 5 times y plus 5, I will write y plus 5 squared equals 16. Now, the standard form equation of a hyperbola always has 1 on the right-hand side, the number 1. So I need to divide everything by 16. So I will divide by 16 here, here, and here. This one reduces. Right, 4 over 16, that's 1/4. So I will have x minus 3 squared over 4, and then minus, and I'm just going to not write the 1 anymore. So y plus 5 squared over 16 is equal to 1. And this will be the standard form equation of the hyperbola. Let's do that one more time for part B. Again, we need to group together the terms that involve x, and we need to group together the terms that involve y. And this constant is going to have to be put to the other side of the equation. So now I have negative 2x squared. And listen, I'm going to go ahead and put the y terms first. And the reason is, okay, I've got y squared plus 6y. For hyperbolas, there's always going to be one variable that's positive and one term that's negative. And it all starts with the squared terms. So see how the y squared is positive, but the x squared is negative? I can tell that the x term is going to be the negative term. So for hyperbolas, you need the positive term to go first and the negative term to go second. That's why I'm putting the y's first and the x's second. So here come those negative x's. Negative 2x squared plus 4x. And that'll equal negative 3 because I'm subtracting that from both sides. It's time to complete the square except for one thing. The x squared has this coefficient in front. I'm going to have to pull that outside of parentheses before I can complete the square. So if I take this negative 2 outside of parentheses and then really divide both of these by negative 2, 4 divided by negative 2 is negative 2. Okay, I'll leave space to complete the square. Now I'm going to complete the square. So I'm going to do half the middle squared. Half of this is 3, and 3 squared is 9. So I am going to add 9 to the other side to balance this out. Alright, there's nothing out front that I have to distribute and multiply. Now, I'm going to complete the square right here as well. Half of this is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is positive 1. Instead of adding a positive 1 on the other side to balance this out, I'm going to realize that I really have negative 2 times 1. So this is really negative 2. So that's why I'm going to subtract 2 on the other side to balance this out. So now I'm going to factor. And I'm running out of space, so I think I'll just start over here. So y squared plus 6y plus 9. This is going to factor as y plus 3 times y plus 3, which I could write as y plus 3 squared. Okay, now this part, I've got the negative 2 of course, but the trinomial will factor as x minus 1 times x minus 1. So I could write that as negative 2 times x minus 1 squared. Now if I add these three numbers together, I'm going to get 4. So equals 4. Now remember, for a hyperbola, we always need equals 1. I need a 1 over here. That's why I'm going to divide everything by 4 right now. Alright, so the first term becomes y plus 3 squared over 4 minus 2 over 4 reduces down to 1/2. So I'm going to have x minus 1 squared over 2 and then equals 1. So this is the standard form equation of the hyperbola, whose equation was originally given in general form. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Go ahead and click here in the red apple to watch the next video. Click in the green apple to subscribe, or click the yellow apple for the full playlist.